Just start the recording here. All right. So the preface here for this has been we missed the recording part of it, but now we will proceed. Joel, did you want to start with what you have been hearing?
Well, I think probably it's best for maybe someone from DCYF to do a little update or something, and we can talk about it. But I did want to plant this in your minds, everybody on this call. So I just got a weird call, maybe not a weird call, a nice call. So this is the call I just had was the person who is a weird connection for us. The person who is the biggest distributor of CBD oil. Apparently the wife went to Head Start, or she cares a lot about Head Start. And they want to make an investment, and they want to help out the Head Start kids. And they want to know, in Washington State, if you were to have them help, they're really interested around food issues. We were talking about home delivery of food. They have a network of drivers, and they have money. Apparently this person is like a billionaire living in Las Vegas. And they've decided that they want to help the old state of Washington. If you could be kind enough to send me a list of all your needs, particularly around food, that would be incredibly helpful, because I think this person was telling me, he could get drivers on the road to distribute food. They have money. They have volunteers. Basically, whatever would be useful, they're interested in. I can't promise what they'll do, but he was very, very interested. And it was a connection through one of our chess instructor guy that got me connected with this guy. So anyway, if you could do me a favor, you're welcome to have some conversation about it here, but if you could email me afterwards and just lay out some of the things that would be useful, whether it's volunteers or financially to support. She's very particularly interested in food issues and hunger. So
Joel, can I assume that applies to ECEAP as well?
Yes, it applies to both.
Yeah.
So,
hey, Joel, this is Sandy, and I was on a call this morning with our ESD. We were told there's some distribution issues from Food Services of America, particularly in some rural areas. So going beyond us up to a supplier who's supposed to be bringing food out to centers would be something to look into.
Okay.
I think it was Northeast Washington. I don't know if anyone, so it may have been a school lunch program that first experienced the distribution issue.
Okay, Joel.
Yep.
We're going to need you to stop or stand in one place. We get a lot of wind and moving around.
Yeah. I'm going to mute you guys so you don't hear it all.
Okay. So Nicole, do you want to do a little ECEAP update?
Sure, Katie. Way to put me on the spot. I'm like, I just got this on my calendar. I have no idea what's going on, but I mean, I do a little bit. I think the biggest thing is the email out to directors that came on Friday afternoon. So hopefully you all saw that about April payments and modified services. And so that is really just, in case you haven't seen it yet, is Karen sent out an email saying that payment to ECEAP contractors has been approved through April 30th, 2020, and ECEAP contractors who determine that a site needs to be closed and that classroom services need to be suspended can continue to be paid as long as they implement modified services to children and families. And then it gives quite a long list of ideas for modified services. So not all required, just a list of ideas of, continued educational supports, continued family supports, professional learning opportunities, facilities, activities, to engage with DCYF. And then it gives some documentation kind of requirements for the modified activities. So mostly we're depending on people to, notify their CQI specialist of what's going on, And then we are, you know, as the situation continues, we're going to see, you know, what can we have people document in ELMS? Are there any other ways that we, you know, need people to document things? But right now it's really just updating your CQI specialist, which is what you're already doing pretty well. And so, yeah, and then there's an update, an additional update around providing care for first responders, and that you're still allowed to use ECEAP funds in classrooms to serve the predetermined priority populations. That information's still coming, and it should be out fairly soon, hopefully, about who the predetermined priority populations are, if it hasn't already come out. And then if you want to open a classroom or serve children, you know, from first responders, there's a couple of, you know, details in that email of what you would need to do. So contacting your local licensing office, doing the emergency waiver documents, and then letting, you know, your CQI specialist know as well. So that's, I think, the most major update that we have right now for today.
Okay, great. Thank you, Nicole. I also wanted to share with you guys the where everybody is. Let me just share my screen here. I think this is it. Share. All right, can people see this Word document now? Yes. So, so this is from this morning. The stuff in blue up there, the Region 10 numbers are for all of Region 10, which includes Idaho, Oregon, and Alaska, in addition to Washington. So they have, here we have 259 Head Start, early Head Start centers closed. For the whole region, it's 596 of 713. And I know that that's going up. There are some specific places in Washington who have adopted a shelter-in-place type approach. Heard from Yakima this morning. Everett started that on Friday. For the state ECEAP, we have 386 total sites. 88% of those are closed with modified services. The same is true of Head Start, by the way, of course. Head Start has also been really creative and out front, as is the ECEAP, around figuring out how you continue to serve the kiddos and families during this. There are 12% open sites, although that is also changing since I heard from a couple of ECEAP programs this morning who were closing. And then 0.5% haven't reported. So that's where we are right this minute. That might not be the same at the end of this call. I know that people are making decisions very quickly. The other thing that we're hearing rumblings about is that we may see a statewide shelter-in-place coming soon this week. That's just a rumor at this point, but there will be a question when that comes out about how that affects ECEAP and childcare in particular. I know that in New York, for example, they consider childcare to be essential workers. And so there's a nuance around how they're being treated, even in the shelter-in-place situation. So we're really trying to work with our childcare partners to make sure that they have the ability and the same kind of financial support that ECEAP and Head Start do if they need to shut down due to health reasons. They are very much in danger of going under during this crisis. And at the same time, there's a real desire and need on the part of the state government to make sure that there is childcare available for first responders and for families who are really who really need to have that place, whether because they're in an essential job or because they're homeless or whatever that might be in our case. Are there any questions about the updates? Oh, the other update that I was really excited, and most of you have probably seen, is that the governor has appointed sort of what I would consider to be a COVID-19 czar, the deputy or the vice admiral, who has a real strong history in, she's a medical doctor and a vice admiral in the Navy, and she is, let me try to figure out how to unshare this thing. She's going to be coordinating our services here in Washington State, and I think that that's a really positive step that the governor has taken as well. Okay, so now I'm going to look for the chat here. All right, so let's see here. I'm going to read through the chat. Nancy Trevina says, Nicole, thank you and your team so much for the advocacy for payment through April. Oh, yes, absolutely. This has been a big challenge. This has been a huge part of our WASA advocacy over the last couple of weeks. We've been a little bit relentless because it's so important in terms of public health for programs to have the ability to close. And if you don't know where your money is coming from, it's a lot more difficult. Mary McDonald, it would be helpful to have a resource to present to directors, easy to understand information about the newly passed Emergency and Family Medical Leave Expansion Act due to COVID and the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act. So, Mary, I actually did send out a memo from a lawyer that we work with, a personnel lawyer who, I know Alexis is on this call. Alexis, Gil, your lawyer there in Wenatchee, who has done training with our Head Start directors over the years. He did a nice memo for nonprofits around the requirements of those new bills. And I can send that out again, but I wonder whether this is also something that the state should make sure that ECEAP programs and Head Start programs have in hand as well.
I was thinking maybe, Katie, he would be willing to do another one of the Zoom calls. Sometimes it helps.
Yeah, maybe. Yep. Yeah. Talina Ives says that the Lummi Indian Nation has also ordered a shelter in care. The governor's press conference is this evening at 5:30 that we all can watch. Jackie Haight asked to define shelter in place, and that is like a super good question. I think right now, if I go out into my neighborhood, I may be able to get a pedicure or or other things, right? Those businesses are still, some are open, some are closed. The restaurants have gotten clear directives about, you have to close, you can only do takeout, but everybody else, the Starbucks is still open, and I think that when you go to shelter in place, they actually require closure of everything that is not deemed an essential service. So correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, that's, and by closure, they can be open if they're being done remotely, but not, they can't open their business, I think, if they're not essential. So, so if anybody has any, my cat's tossing things around here, very distracting. So I think that that's what that looks like. Let's see here. Mary McDonald says, initially, our CACFP specialist who works out of OSPI told them that they would not be reimbursed for meals delivered to families at home. Terry A. told us that OSPI issued emergency rules and local school districts are responsible for feeding all children remotely ages 1 to 18. On Friday, Terry A. contacted us again and said CACFP has now issued their own emergency ruling. Mary, maybe you can speak out loud. I guess I'm trying to figure out from that comment whether that it means that you can get reimbursed or you can't.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I'm not sure. It was just on Friday, right before we went into an all-staff meeting, but initially we thought that one of our closure plans would be to keep some staff busy by preparing and delivering meals. And we were told by our CACF specialist that we would not be able to get reimbursed. Today and on Friday, she contacted us, and I'm not sure of all the details, but she indicated that now they had issued their own emergency ruling. So for everybody to be aware of that, we might be able to get reimbursed. I'm not sure. I don't know what their initial ruling on Friday that they issued said, but I'm assuming it says something about we would be able to serve families and be reimbursed for it remotely. But before that, we were told that if you won't be reimbursed for any meals during a closure. Now things might have changed.
Okay. So it sounds like we need to follow up with something here. I don't know if Nicole
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, we'll follow up. But Nicole, can you put that on your list as well to make sure that people have proper guidance around CACFP?
Who's the agency? Is that DSHS or who's responsible for that program?
It's run through OSPI.
Okay.
Yep, that sits with OSPI.
Nicole, are you able to contact them, or do you want me to do that?
Yeah.
You can do that.
Yeah, actually, I know the contact information, and yeah, we can certainly reach out to them.
Okay, thanks, Nicole.
Yeah, and Nicole, if you're talking to them, can you make sure that that this applies both in all situations of Head Start and ECEAP, Early Head Start, Tribal Head Start, all of that? Maybe she disappeared. Okay.
I'm just
Esna,
typing. Sounds
okay.
good.
Yeah, thank you. Ethna asks where the best place is to watch the press conference. I don't know. What do people think? I think I'm not sure. It pops up on my Facebook, to be honest. That's how I get to see them. But I'm not sure how other people are seeing those press conferences. So if you have suggestions, you can unmute yourself or you can post in the chat. Nancy Trevina asks, a question I heard this morning in another meeting was whether grocery workers are considered essential and eligible for prioritized childcare. They previously have not been mentioned. I think that is a good question as well. Jody DeCesare says, and I hope, Jody, that I'm actually pronouncing your name correctly, probably not. Essential services are defined by Homeland Security. There's a list you can Google. It is, however, guidance, and the governor or local authorities can clarify their definition of essential. For example, auto repair, some construction, public works, grocery are all essential per Homeland Security. Thank you, Jody. Tanea says in Spokane, all the salons are closed. Jackie Haight says USDA. I think she's answering this, the CACF, the food program. That's where the food program comes from and it is administered through OSPI maybe, but I'm not sure that it's all administered through OSPI. Not sure. Melissa McFeeters says that the governor's press conference is streamed live on Facebook. Debbie Chadwick suggests coronavirusnow.com. Jody says Inslee has a link to the conference right on his Twitter feed, Governor Jay Inslee. He also usually has it on Facebook Live. Jackie Haight says she thought we saw guidance regarding USDA allowing CACFP to be used like summer food deliveries. I think that's true. I think the question here is whether or not they've overruled, since they have told the school districts that they need to provide food for 0 to 18. Sandy Nelson says she sees the governor's thing on Cairo News app on her phone. Melissa McFeeters says if you navigate to the governor's page. Good, I actually rocked Jody DeCesare's name. That's because I studied Italian in college, Jody. And then you can also find the governor's press conference on TVW. Joel reminds us that there's an action alert on the stimulus package. I think it is really around making sure that childcare is included in there. So something's happening on the phone here. A Yakima stay-at-home order. So yeah, that's what's. Okay, so other questions about the update?
I'd be curious, Kate, in terms of the action alert, a number of groups have them out. I think we can post it on Facebook, or maybe we can send it out.
Are you standing in one place, Joel?
Yes, of course.
Okay, thank you.
But you know me, guys. You can trust me. I'm actually at a soccer field when no one's around. Yeah, the number of groups have sent out an action alert. The initial stimulus package has like $3 billion in there for childcare, but I think the advocates are trying to get up to $50 billion. So there's a big ask to try to prop up those childcare, especially those that are relying on a mixture of subsidy and private pay. They may end up having to close and are, not able to get paid at all. And so there's a real effort to do that. Plus, to make sure there's funding for people who do want to serve essential workers. So I just wanted to put that out there. The other thing I'm interested in hearing on this call is what are people doing for modified services? I'm really curious to know what people are working on. So, all right, I'm going back around the field again.
Yeah, so before we get to that question, I have a couple other things. One is that there's a lot of action here among childcare advocates advocating for support on the state level as well for those kinds of supports. And in addition, for supplies, which are becoming increasingly difficult to acquire. And this pertains to ECEAP and Head Start too. There's a lot of requirements right now around taking people's temperature on your way in, but it's hard to find thermometers. And so other things like that and other supplies that we need while we do a not excessive but acceptable amount of cleaning and safety with our staff and families. So we are trying to be very supportive and join in that effort as well. The other sort of scary thing that we heard, a lot of the things that we passed during the legislature haven't actually been signed yet. And so it's not all written in stone now that we are going to have a huge hole in the budget. So stay tuned to hear what happens as the governor works his way through those bills. Shannon Griffiths suggests text communication of resources. So I'm assuming that she's they're providing text communication to their families for resources. What else are people doing that they think is working?
I got an email from the kids' elementary school counselor with resources that are open and like state agencies that are closed or have restricted hours, like housing or DSHS, stuff like that. She sent me a big long email, and I think I had 5 or 6 pages of resources that are open and available, which ones are closed, restricted hours, which was helpful for me when I'm thinking about papers that I have to turn in or anything like that while the kids are out of school.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Tanea. Looks like a lot of people are emailing learning packets to families, and I know that people are dropping those off as well, because I saw some great pictures of, I think, EPIC loading up their buses and delivering out meals and education packets to families. Melissa McFeeters says they took last week off as snow days while the administration prepared support for us to connect with families and provide educational resources to families to maximize the equitable circumstances. Teachers started today with connecting with families as well as myself and other family support specialists. But I worry because some staff are more familiar and comfortable with technology and using it to connect with families, and others are not. We are avoiding anything that looks like packets per our director. Melissa, do you want to say anything more about that?
Katie, when you're reading the messages, can you go a little bit slower, please? This is Marisela.
Yes. Yeah, I realized halfway through that I was going too fast and started to slow down, but I apologize. Ethna Flanagan says they have private Facebook groups for children's stories, music, parent groups, etc. Jody has weekly remote visits for all enrolled families, regardless of program resources, basic needs, activities, working on family goals, etc. Ready Rosie, I know that that has been made available, I think for free to all of the Head Start ECEAP families. And so I know that a number of programs had already adopted that as a supplement to what they were doing in the classroom for parents. And so this is a good time to experiment with that. Alicia Brender says weekly remote visits, and in the process of creating a family resource page that families can access to get information on community resources, financial, what's open and closed, how to access our staff, etc. Tammy Lidster says weekly communication, texting, video conferencing, voice calls, learning packets weekly. YouTube videos of PD staff reading stories and doing activities. Lots of resources to families to keep their littles still learning. Debbie Chadwick says, I've spoken to a lot of teachers and they have had some personal sadness around not being able to see the kids that they know are vulnerable. They said they love hearing from the kids, i.e. an email saying hi to the teacher, not asking questions, but simply saying hi and we miss you. It helps the teachers know that those kids are doing okay and give them some motivation to keep on. That is so nice, Debbie. Tanea says we have Bites to Go meals that are available for drive-through pickup at some of the schools in the area. The kids were given packets last Monday with their work. Then I am getting emails from teachers with any questions that I have on homework. We have daily email updates from school administrators. Sandy Nelson says specific publishers have released copyright rules for teachers to read stories on web pages and YouTube. Must state who the publisher is before reading the book. I can send statement to Katie. Oh, that would be good because so we at WASA have a weekly Spanish story time with Maricela. It is somewhat interactive, and she reads a story, but we should put the publisher on there to make sure that we are in alignment with the copyright rules. Let's see here. From Nancy Trevina, online resources, videos posted online for families with stories and music and movement, home learning packets individualized for the child's goals, delivered for families who do not have technology resources, calls to families with teachers talking to some kiddos on the phone who need that connection, virtual meetings with families, SAC breakfast and lunch pickup, and some delivery. Our staff are making the videos and reading the books. You guys are amazing. This is a lot. Tanea, yes, we are sending teachers and fellow classmates emails today since I was able to access laptops for the kids to use while school is closed. I'm asked, how do we link families to your Spanish reading time? And the answer is, I think it's on our Facebook page. And we're gonna, I need to update our website as well. So we're gonna be working on that this week, is getting all of our
email for this, to register for this call also. I think that was included in there for the Spanish reading.
Yeah.
Katie,
yeah.
This is Fatima. I participated last time. It was kind of interactive. I really enjoy it. I was dancing with Maricela and the kids. The only thing, it was kind of tricky to get into the Zoom meeting because you have to go to like the invite or something like that. I don't remember anymore, but it wasn't as easy. This call was really easy. I click on it and I went right into it, but because I think I've already been invited to. But if the families go to the Facebook, they have to look for, like a scroll down and go to like the ticket invite or something like that. And then they have to click on it, and then they get an email, and then after that they're able to participate on the Zoom interactive reading cuentacuentos.
Yeah, I think that the invitation that's up now has just the registration link in the text, so it should be a little bit easier with it now. But I'll double check. Audiobooks are also allowing certain books to be heard for free for kids, and there are a lot of museums doing virtual tours. This is true. I had a conversation. Sandy is asking Fatima what the name of the video site was. So Sandy, I think this is about what link we include for the Zoom. It's all the same. You have to go into our Zoom registration thing. So the email that you got from me that had the link to the Spanish sign up, that is the link that she used before to sign up. I think that when she went through Facebook, it had multiple steps, and so that was a little more complicated. I was talking to my college roommate who is an elementary school counselor, and she said, she and her fellow counselors are trying to figure out how to be supportive of kiddos when they're not there. And she said she, sort of lets parents know, but I want to let all of you parents who are on this call know that might also be something. Those counselors that are in your kids' schools may be available for your kiddos to talk to on the phone or on a video chat or something like that too. Other thoughts? Other questions? Other things that you think that WASA should be doing during this craziness?
I just messaged you, Katie, about McKinney-Vento and the homeless population. I have a lot of families that are experiencing homelessness that are not housed yet. There's a few that are in shelters, but there is at least 4 families that I know that I'm dealing with that are still in their cars that now have to figure out food, and they're not making it to free internet sites, and they're also not making it to mill sites because they have no gas. Now,
Right.
and so my thing is how can we address that? Because it's a huge problem. Like, the kids are getting sick in the car, they're hungry, and we have mental health, depression issues with the parents now because they don't have jobs. I mean, I'd like to bring everybody home to my house, but I mean, that's not possible. Like, do we have the ability to get McKinney-Vento involved to maybe have a site during the day where our early learning kids that are in the homeless population can at least come and learn and eat and get their meals in one place? Like, maybe get the transportation that takes them to school, bring them to the mill sites like they would. I mean, it wouldn't be a difference.
Yeah.
This is Joel. I was just going to say thank you for raising that, because let me talk to our partners at Building Changes and the McKinney-Vento folks at OSPI. This also could be the job for the billionaire who has resources to spend and support families. So after this call is over, if you could do me a favor and just email me directly, specifically what you just went through, and let me see if I can work on that for you.
I will, and blankets too. Like, you know, they obviously, like, they don't have a place to, like, the concern is they don't want so much computers that are in the car with the kids, because their fear is them getting broken and they have to pay for them. But I mean, we've got to have some kind of place for the kids to access, you know, computers or something to learn the internet. We were having people go to McDonald's and Starbucks and things like that, but now they're closing the inside, so you can't even do that. So yeah, I will message you.
Thank you. Tanya Phillips says, as family support, I'm finding that families really appreciate the contact and knowing that we're still supporting them while children are not in school. I think that's so true. I mean, I know that I'm on these meetings all day and working, and it's not that, I mean, I don't see that many more people, but I feel when I'm in my normal work day, but I feel super isolated, and I know it's even more for everybody else. Rebecca Boyer says, at my school district, there are breakfast and lunches available for 0 to 18, and I believe they're going to transport them to kids who need it. Some teachers have their own Facebook page with suggestions for learning websites. I miss the kids in my school district, so I started reading books a couple days ago on my YouTube channel. On my town's community pages, people pass along websites there. Rebecca, can you send me your YouTube channel? Melissa McFeeters says, thank you for offering these update calls as a resource. I appreciate it. I agree with the need for additional intentional support for families experiencing homelessness and unsheltered. Debbie Chadwick says, yes, thank you, Abril, and yes to the billionaire. From Rebecca Boyer, she is worried about how this is going to affect the economy long term, and worried about homeless kids and their parents too. Yeah, I completely agree. Other thoughts?
Katie, I cannot find the thing to text, so that's why I'm talking. Sorry. I just sent you an email. They're having a webinar, and it's like a national level, and it's about homeless and how to help them. And they're going to involve the people from our state because we are one of the most impacted states in the nation. So I don't know if you later would like to share that webinar with other people. It's going to happen tomorrow.
Okay, great. I'll send out a follow-up email with links to everything we've talked about and to that as well. Alicia Brender says in Bellevue, our McKinney-Vento students are in the priority group of emergency childcare, and we're offering transportation if they're within district. I hope that all districts are offering emergency childcare to their McKinney-Vento students. Let's push this issue and support our McKinney-Vento families.
Katie, Reina from the Spanish land shared that there are also many churches that are providing meals for families. There is one specifically in Butte, but they have a big connection with others. So the name of the church is, ¿puedes decirme otra vez el nombre de la iglesia, Reina? It's ECELKS.
Okay, is that the name of a church?
Yeah, that is the name of the church.
What town is that in?
En Buren, ¿a qué hora es en Buren, Reina? Wednesday from 10 to 2. And also Maria is sharing that in Salvation Army in Bellevue, they also provide meals.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that there are other resources that are community-based, like churches, that we should pay attention to as well.
Yeah, and Reina says that you don't need to register, and they provide meals for the whole family. So I mean, not for the only ones that have children, it's for the whole family.
Great. Melissa McFeeters says she's curious if anyone else is looking at this as our educational system effectively being dismantled and an opportunity for us to rebuild it with our historically marginalized children and families at the center and in decision-making power through the process. That's optimistic. Let's hope.
Sandra has another thing to share. Katie, a ver, dime, Sandra. There also are support for the small businesses.
Right.
And the Department of Commerce is from the state of Washington. They also have resources for small business.
Yeah. And I think we'll see more of that as well.
You can look for it on the website, and also there's a phone number available.
Okay, great. Thanks. Other thoughts before we close? I will share Rebecca's story time with you folks. All right. Thank you all for joining us on this weekly adventure through coronavirus. We will keep you up to date over the course of the week with any updates or things that we want to share or think you want to know. But yeah, we really appreciate you guys coming together to help us and to help each other. And good luck with your week. Thanks, guys. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Adios.
Katie, do you hear me, Katie? Katie?